Hello again. I'm out in the shop. I'm going to do a little project for Deanna. She wants a couple more shelves built above her sewing table, so it's pretty simple. It's 70 inches long and about a foot high with a second shelf below. We'll just attach it to the wall. So first thing I'm going to do is I have some recycled walnut shelves that I'm going to cut down. They're just about the exact length. I have to trim a few inches off of them, but so that's the first step. A couple times, so you can see this was pretty thick on this end. Actually, it was over 1.5 inches thick, so there we are. We got two pieces cut at 70 inches. I think I'll have to trim this bottom piece once I get the end brackets made, but it should be pretty close. So the next thing I wanted to do was to reduce the bottom shelf to 9.5 inches. And I measured from what was to become the front of the shelf towards the rear and cut that off. I cut the two end panels to size. I want this end panel to go to the back past this piece that's on the back. So now I've marked this. I'm going to cut it out and that'll give my end panel to come back here, and I won't have to cut this out around here. So I'll do the other end. So after I cleaned up the area on the other end, I wanted to remove this bracing that was on the inside of the top shelf. And I just pried it off with a pry bar and a chisel. And it was only glued on, but it had a staple approximately every foot, which I also pulled out. I cut two 7.5 inch shelf spacers just to set the height of the shelf. So with these two blocks cut at 7.5 inches, which is the space that Deanna wants between the shelves, I'm using these as just spacers so that I can now measure the height of the the end caps here. And what I'm going to do is it's 8 1/4 to the bottom of the shelf, and I think I'll add an 1 1/4 below the shelf just to finish off the bottom and do a little round over on the end. Okay, so I made the end caps for the shelf, and I'm going to cut a 3-inch radius on. Well, actually, I cut the radius on here. But what I'm going to do is put this template on it and run it around with the router and flush trim it to this pattern, which has a 3-inch radius on it. So I'll do the first one. Need to run that up just a little bit. So you can see what a nice profile that gave that piece of plywood. I got a little ding right there. I'll have to sand out of it, but it sure saves you time in sanding. So there are the two of them. I will probably stack these together, clamp them in the vise, and run the sander over them at the same time. That way I'll have a wider surface to sand, and they'll both come out flat. So there we have the ends with all the pieces cut. I'm going to sand this. I'm going to start with 120. This is finished veneer paneling. I mean, it's perfect the way it is right now. I'm just going to take some of the scratches out of it and hopefully get the paint to stick to it. I'm going to switch to 220 and go over everything once more. And I'll be ready to start gluing it up and screwing it together. I'm ready to put the end panels and the back panel together, and then I'm going to set this on the top shelf. So I'm going to use some Titebond 2 glue, put a little on the edge here, and then put some wood screws in it. These holes will get filled with wood filler when the project's finally put together. So that's the back support. Next I'll glue this onto the top, and then we'll put the shelf in it. Okay, the last thing to do for the top is to put some glue on here and flip it over, put some screws in it. Okay, now that I have the top mounted, I'm going to install the second shelf, and I've got this assembly upside down. I've cut these blocks that are 7.5 inches high. That's what she wants the shelf to be located at. What I'm going to do is I went around and I marked this at the whole way around the perimeter so that I can drill the holes from the inside outward, and then I'll countersink them on the outside and then come back and mount this shelf. Now that they're all drilled, I'm going to go and countersink them from the outside. Okay, now with the shelf back in there, we're going to finish drilling the holes through into the shelf and then put the screws in. First I'm going to go around and put the screws in the ends, and then I'm going to locate where the elevation goes on this board sagging a little bit. So now with the spacer blocks in the center, I'll drill the holes through the back and put some more screws in it. So that's it. Fill the holes, screw holes that are going to show on the top and on the ends, and
let that dry overnight, and maybe come back tomorrow and put some color on it.
So the next to the last thing that I did outside was I sprayed the unit purple to match the rest of Deanna's sewing room, and we've got it mounted into the studs with some 3-inch screws, and we put these little buttons on top to hide those screw heads.